We know that Lucy and Catherine Madox Brown were heavily influenced by their Pre-Raphaelite upbringing, particularly in terms of the codes of female beauty that we associate with the Pre-Raphaelite movement. And we know from a contemporary, Laura Hayne Friswell, that the sisters used to dress at these musical soirees and these parties that they threw as if they belonged in a Burne-Jones picture. So they created this Pre-Raphaelite style, which they've obviously absorbed as they were growing up, and so they wore sort of soft, unstructured, aesthetic dress, and they looked willowy, and they were described as being Rossettian and Burne-Jonesian in the extreme, and they were really clearly quite intimidating to their contemporaries because they were so striking in the way they appeared. Catherine had her first child. She married first and had her first child in 1873. Lucy had her first child, Olivia, in 1875. And you can see from this painting by her father, Ruth Brimacombe Brown, just how loving she was as a mother. So she found herself torn. I think something that we can all still engage with. She found herself torn between her maternal self and her creative identity. Vernon Lee would talk about how she, who's an author who again they met within the Bohemian Society, would describe how she adored her babies, but she'd also talk fiercely against any enemies of Pre-Raphaelitism, and so you see this kind of tension between her intellectual needs and her maternal needs. She was quite a fierce mother, so sometimes we know that Lucy would step in and ask the governess to step aside, and she would teach the children herself in the way that she wanted them to be taught. And they would grow up to have literary careers and to be, they founded a radical press. Her children founded The Torch, where they asked people like George Bernard Shaw to provide articles. So she passed on her Pre-Raphaelite thinking and her intellectual ideas. She passed them on to her children. Catherine was equally loving. She had 3 children, and the oldest of them, Ford Madox Hooper, would actually grow up to become Ford Madox Ford, who is one of the leading modernist authors of the next generation.